Happy Tuesday night. I'm Aaron here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio. Looking forward to seeing you all, who all comes in. And if you're watching later on, let us know you're watching on replay as well. I want to feature one of Dixie Belle's new products, and that is their vintage post transfer. I think it's going to look fantastic on this project I have. And that project that I'm working on is, I think it would be considered a lingerie chest, but it's almost like just a small, tall dresser. It doesn't have any frills. In fact, let me just show you real fast when I'm thinking about it. This is the before photo. Just basic knobs. I actually had a backup plan. I may not use the wood knobs, but sometimes when I get the wood knobs, I always paint them, dress them up a little bit, but if not, I'll swap them out. But that's a lot of knobs to have to replace. But this is the before picture, and so I thought I'd share that with you tonight as well. Let's see, yeah, this is the transfer. It has a montage, I'll use the word montage, of different styles or elements and graphics, and I think it'd be really pretty to put on this piece. So that's what we're going to be working on here in a minute. I haven't even pulled the transfer out of the box yet, so we're going to wing it live. I'm going to show you at least a little bit of the creative process that I'll choose, but it will be impromptu because I don't have a plan, so I think that'll be kind of fun to discover that together. The other thing I'll tell you I don't have on the screen is last night, so after cleaning this with white lightning, I put 2 coats of Boss. I will tell you that when I clean my furniture, if the bucket's really, really dirty, I go extra on the Boss. This one was one of those pieces. So last night, I put a vast light coat of Sawmill gravy at the top. And then down below, you'll see it's darker. That's French linen. There's a little bit of a rough, and I'll show you this side over here. There's a rough, light, not really refined transition. Sometimes it's okay not to be super blended. And so I just did a very, very light blend. It's not even soft. And you can even see some of the gray maybe shining through here, and that's the original Boss. I was moving so fast and wet that sometimes it comes through. And I oftentimes, let me bring you in, I oftentimes will leave that gray Boss coming through just as almost as another color. The other side didn't have as much Boss shining through, but you can see it's kind of a little bit of a zigzag. But when I put the transfer, I'm hoping to peek a little transfer here and there and have a little bit of a fun composition with it. So again, 2 colors, Sawmill gravy at the top, French linen at the bottom. The other thing I have also in my studio is right here, I have my usual Crazy Brush Show craft table, and I've got scissors. I also have a cutting board in case I want to do some straight cuts, so that's ready to go. And I also may move some of the drawers to the table instead of trying to push up against the piece. So like I said, I think it's a lingerie chest, but I almost want to go with a lingerie dresser or a small, tall dresser. Whatever works, right? As you pull that out, as I pull this out, the one thing I did pull out was a lovely fancy transfer stick. All right, the thing that really caught my eye on this was one, I really like some of the decorative pieces. And by the way, let me just put this up here to give you the full view. I got it right there. That's the full set of all 4 pieces that you get. So that's what we're looking at. But I really like some of the decorative elements. There's a lot of emotional type looks on here, decorative, classy. And that's, when I saw French linen, this feels very French. I'm like, oh, we got to use French linen on my project. I like the roses. I think that's really on point. Oh, there goes the sheet on the floor. I think it's cool. So even the little lady down there. My goal right now is to not drop everything on the floor. That would be a goal. I did. Let's see if I can unravel. There you go. Is to just randomly find places to put this. Really lovely transfer, and this is one of the new releases from Dixie Belle. So what I'm thinking is randomly just place them throughout the project, and then a little bit on the side too, because I think it would be nice to kind of tuck around in the corner, maybe put some down. If possible, go ahead and use the entire transfer, the entire container on the entire piece. I think that would be appropriate to do. So if I think about some of the compositions, some may work better on the piece than others. I mean, even look at this. I like how it's peeking through, and that probably carries over to the other side. I like how the back has the piece. Yeah, see, it doesn't continue. So this would be a great place to put on the side of a dresser, side of a drawer. So what if we did something like that and just kind of declare that we're going with kind of a fancy piece right off. You'll notice that at the top it has this white. This is why I have my paper cutter, is to get rid of any of those. The other option is to just not worry about that. Oh, totally missed it. Let's try one more time. There we go. That's what I want. The next thing that I would, in my mind, makes sense to do is so one thing you can do is go ahead and figure out where to cut for that edge. Because what will happen is as you start rubbing, it'll want to continue and then it's just gonna rip. And I don't really want the transfer going over this, but I could. I think I'd like to contain the pieces in here, but I could go over, but I'm gonna go with not. So let's do that. Let's pull this drawer out, okay? I think that's gonna help me. And I'll bring you guys around over here. The other place that I could cut is this edge here, but I think I'm just gonna wing it. Okay. Something like that. I do think I need to go ahead and trim this down, or I could be regretting it later. This is how we're gonna roll. Sometimes I don't worry about cutting things like this because I'm putting the whole transfer on the piece. But this one's gonna be a little bit more by almost like a grid. So look at that. So for transfers, I usually go over it really quick. 1 or 2 fast passes, nothing crazy. And then you need to kind of just let it just be committed. Because can you over rub? No, but at the same time, they should transfer fairly well that you shouldn't have to. And what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for a release. Do you see how it gets a little lighter? Wow, of course not. One of these days I'm gonna hire a fancy camera crew to come in here and just film with me. So I'm looking for the transfer to release from the plastic. This is not a new science or anything. This is just, you see how I can just start lifting up? And a lot of the rubbing I'm doing is not even needed, but I like to keep rubbing. It gets you in kind of a rhythm to transfer. So here we go. You see how I can almost just lift this off? Look at that. You're not going to get every spot, but that's how easy it should feel if you give it a good rub. Sometimes I just overwork it. Look at that. It's really great. Nice and easy. If you ask, and I usually get questions, what do I do after? I usually top coat with a satin, and I would imagine it's optional, but I usually don't top coat the same day. It depends on what it is. All right, so here's where I might want to keep this extra piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this off. And set that to the side because you never know, you might need it. And finishing up. I love transfers, especially like this, because they really enlighten my creative process because anything goes. The next thing that I like to have handy, I'm looking around my studio, is Dixie Belle's sanding sponge. And this is where I usually like to go over it. Just make sure there's everything down. I like the light distressing. Now my transfer is a little larger than my drawer, so I'm gonna just give it a good little sand. I might even come back. This is almost like 400 grit sandpaper. I might come back with a different sandpaper and give it even more of a sand. But right now I'm just kind of like making sure it's stuck really well. There. I think this is going to be the vibe that we want. How cool is that? So far, at some point I think in my mind, I'm thinking I want to like fade some of these. Now we need to, the next piece is to figure out, do I need to trim off? Like, I don't think I want to continue just moving this down. I think I want it to look like there's a gap, right? Would you agree with that? So I'm just going to kind of take an estimate of where I want to trim. I'm using the official finger guide. I'm going to trim about 1 inch off. I'm going to put this down so I can touch the back. I'm going to cut off about 1 inch of this. I like to keep as much of the transfer as possible. You never know when the scraps can come handy. At some point, you might not want to be a hoarder. It's okay if you hoard transfers, right? So you see how I'm just lightly, this is where I was talking about. So now this drawer is a full drawer. Do I want to continue this piece here, or do I want to fade out? I think I want to trim this out, to be honest with you, and just randomly have patches. So what I'm going to do is just that. Let me lift this up. So this is just part of the live editing. I'm trying to trim this so that the bottom left quarter of this piece can be used for another part of the dresser. So this piece right here I can save. It's got a little nice quote on it. I'll save that for another part. But this will give me a little bit of that vignette I'm talking about. So nothing super creative tonight, but I definitely wanted to bring you along on the process. Now the next thing I'm going to do is trim along the bottom of the drawer, because I want to save that too. It's really nice to have a table like where you can just kind of keep your pieces all together. We probably all have a dining room or craft table somewhere. So that's about what I'm looking for right there. It's not super tacky that I can't do a light lift and reposition. There we go. So remember, my principle was basically 2 quick, good pressure rubs. This one's got a lot of image on it, so you want to give it a good, kind of like methodical. I'm going to show you something real quick. You may not notice this on camera, but do you see right here, there's a little bit of darker here. I almost did a dry brush vignette, just trying to keep it real, not making this super flashy. So this is my second pass. You don't have to go this fast. This is just how I roll. Oh, you're not even using the latest stick. We got to use the latest stick. Let me tell you one thing I love about the new stick. The old stick was brown, and it would leave brown marks on my piece. And the new ones are great. I love the branding on there. What a fantastic upgrade. And it's a bigger stick. Okay, so here we go. Keep my stick handy. Just kind of lifting and seeing what stuck and didn't. See how well you did. But once that starts to lift, it should start releasing really well. That was a lot of drama just to get you closer. This is why I have YouTube, so I can edit all those bloopers out. And I can give you a consolidated video. If you haven't checked out my YouTube, you should. Projects like this, I can fast forward, I can see, almost look at that. If I just lift. In a perfect world, you could just lift it up, but just keep an eye on it. Sometimes you get lucky. sometimes you can't. I think it depends on how you painted the surface. Sometimes I would also recommend that you give your piece a light sand before you do this. Do not have to do this with a sanding sponge, but to me, I just like how it makes sure everything's stuck, and it also gives it a little bit of a distressing, which is totally on point with this piece anyway. Okay, so just like we did a while ago, let's take a look, see how it turned out. Yeah, that's cool. The transfer actually does have a little bit of a natural fade there, but if you wanted to, I don't have a, this is like a 220 grit. You can actually come in here and even give it a little bit more of a sanded fade if you want. If it's too hard of a line, that's cool too. So that's the look I'm going for, just almost these patchwork posts, and that's how this transfer is really made, and I like that a lot. Okay, so we did roses. Now I'm looking over the overall transfer, just looking for what's the next best thing. And so this is where we can say, okay, how about that one? How about this one? I really like this signature element and how this curve is. I think that would vignette nice there. So I think this little section would be great. All right, that's our piece. And we'll go back to our stick. And this is generally the whole process. I had thought about making more of a blended approach on this piece, but sometimes what I'll do is I'll take the cue from the project. If the project is, if it's got scratches and it's rough, I keep the painting effect oftentimes rough, or at least casual, might be another word. And that's what I did on this one, instead of doing a fine quality blend. All right, pass number 2, just moving quickly. And now we'll start removing it. Let's see if it'll lift without me rubbing anymore. Yep, one little piece here. I'm not suggesting you get risky at home and start lifting up your transfer like that, but it is fun to see it stick. Okay, so again, we're going to go back to the sanding sponge, go along the edges, trim off any of that excess transfer. Okay, let's take a look at it. It's coming together. Hi. One reason I can pull it up like this is because it's a very solid print as opposed to maybe like lace. Look how easy that was. Go down the side. So far, so good. The direction's working out, and the aesthetic is really looking spot on. Well, I'm Aaron here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio, but I'm going to keep working on this here in the next few days, so stay tuned for the finished pics. Be sure to follow me over on social media. All right, y'all, we'll see you later. Have a good night.
that's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye!